Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm experimenting with kind of a pseudo bookbinding. Basically, I'm covering these already completed journals. I've been unhappy with how they have been archived, and I just want them to look a little bit more complete, a little bit more book-like. So I've been using the Midori MD B6 Slim notebook for a couple of months now and really enjoying it, and kind of imagine having a whole completed collection of them for the year. And I thought it would be fun to use some of the scrap fabric that I have been hanging on to for a long time. Some of these came from a friend, some of this came from old clothes that got shredded and couldn't be worn anymore. And so it'll be nice to actually use my stash. This particular fabric was from an old dress and it has a little seam here, so I'm just cutting that off so that I don't have to work with the bulk of that. I also made sure to avoid cutting the little ribbon bookmark when I was cutting out this swath of fabric. And I think I'm just going to use my glue stick, Gloo stick. It's the glue stick that I use for basically all the things that I need glue for. It's great. And I think it will work just fine for this as well. And this particular one got a little messy. I also put wax paper underneath just so that I could be careless with the glue, applying the glue, and make sure that it was all the way to the edge and not have to worry about getting glue on my journal. And then when I placed the fabric, it was important that everything was flat and flush, but I didn't stretch it, because if I stretched it, then it would, stretch and get kind of funky, and some parts would have more tension and some parts would have less tension. And so I just wanted it to be as flat on the paper as possible. And then I have this little bone folder that I use to help kind of smooth it out a little bit. Another thing I did is just manipulate the cover itself and kind of fold it in the opposite direction that it wanted to bend in, because once I applied the glue, that cardboard or whatever, the cardstock cover just started to warp, and I didn't want that to happen. And then I cut the little corners so that I could fold the fabric over and it would hopefully look a little neater. I'm not too worried about putting a lot of glue on this part, just because I will be going back and putting some paper over this to cover those edges. But for now, this will just hold it into place. Again, I'm manipulating it so that it doesn't bend in the direction it wants to. And also, I wanted to make sure that it was, when I folded the fabric over, that it was tight but not pulling. I didn't want it to stretch in awkward ways. I actually discovered for these horizontal edges, the narrower edges of the book, it was easier just to use my fingers than the bone tool. And again, using some wax paper so that the glue didn't get onto the journal. And now, this might be an unnecessary step. I could have probably done both covers and then put a bunch of weight on them, but I just felt the need to let it dry and try to encourage it to dry as flat as possible. before working on the other side. So I'm just trying to find some things to weight it down. All right, so both sides are done now, and I have this tape that I'm going to use. This is, I just Googled bookbinders tape, and this is one of the things that came up, and it's basically kind of like a duct tape, except maybe fabric. I can't really tell what the material is. It feels a little bit more fabric-y, but still duct tape-like. I think it's also called gaffer tape, but I'm not entirely sure. And I wasn't really sure how I wanted to use it other than just to make a really nice clean spine and also help hold down that fabric. But I'm not sure if there are some techniques that I could use in the future, some things that I could do differently, because the tape does not wrap into or around the cover, and I kind of wanted to do that, but I ended up just trimming off the excess in the end. So here I am trying to make sure that it's nice and smack dab in the middle so that each end is on each cover is equal, which I took a lot of time. I was very careful about this part. I wasn't sure how well the tape would stick once it was on. But I think it worked pretty darn well. And then I just kind of folded it, smoothed it out, creased it a little bit along the spine there. And then I trimmed. And again, I think I would like to do this just a little bit differently next time and have little flaps that could fold over underneath into the cover and then just trim off the... It's really hard to explain because I don't know parts of a book. Anyways, I would like to do it a little bit differently next time, but for now this works. This does the trick. And I think I like it. So before to archive, I actually made these little paper covers, and I want to use that paper and cut it out to make the inside cover. And then basically use the wax paper again to apply the glue liberally onto this little piece of paper so that I could make sure that it stayed and helped keep those cloth edges in the book, on the book. And I tried really hard to center this perfectly, but in the end, I think I just trimmed it. I didn't trim it enough. And so some of that paper gets caught in the crease just a little bit. And at first, folding the book over was kind of challenging. It didn't lay very flat, but it actually, in the end, worked out really well. And it's all good. And then I duplicated that whole process and covered a second completed journal. So a little later in the day, I was thinking about these journals and feeling like there's just something missing. And I have these 2 sticker books that I've had for a couple of years now. I've used them a lot. I really have enjoyed them. And there's all these letters in the books. All these letters in the books that I hardly ever use. I use the pictures primarily. And so I thought, well, maybe for this series of journals in this year or with this size, I can reorganize them with the alphabet. I think these are volumes 65 and 66, and I'll still write that somewhere in the journal to keep track and to have some continuity, but I think it would be fun to have these volumes be also A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so forth. The only thing that I don't like about the sticker book is I always feel the need to trim off the edges. There's just too much of a border that makes it feel too stickery, and I want them to feel a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, original? Finished? I don't know, I just don't like big borders on stickers in general, and so I always cut them out, which is of course a little bit time consuming, but so is putting these covers on. Okay. Oh, I've made such a mess. But I ended up changing some things around a little bit and decided to go with a different front, and I'm much happier with this. So I basically typed up what letter of the alphabet each edition is or each book is, and then also put the volume number and a little image that was cut out from these books I've already shown. And then the letters that I had already cut out, I actually just put them on the inside. So they still served some kind of purpose. And I also typed up the dates on the spine. So then when they're on a shelf, you can see them easily. You can order them very easily, A, B, C, D, so on and so forth. But you can also read, okay, what time period were these written for, during? And that's it. I'm glad I went back to it. Sometimes these things are a multi-day process as you just sit with it and kind of make small decisions. And it's nice that, these stickers weren't final, that I was able to peel them off, reuse them, and put something else on. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Happy writing. Oops. So when I was showing Brian these two, he noticed that both volume numbers were 66. So I just typed up a new number and stuck it on top. I think that will work just fine.